Okay, so what I want to do is I want to walk through a couple of the examples of the queries that we saw on exam number two, just to kind of give you a sense of um, kind of looking at the stuff and trying to get an approach of how to work your way through these things. Okay, so this is, as we see here, here's our tables, basically the race results table, all right, three tables, a race results database, three tables, a race table, a members table, and a race results table. Okay, if we take a look, here's our detail, here's our information. So members, 18 members are listed, first name, last name, and cell phone. There are a boatload of races, um, which actually has a combination, which is actually combines both the members and the race ID, and then finally the race table itself. So there are one, two, three, four, five races of different dates, and then the race results really, which combines both the race ID, the member ID, and the results of the race, what place. Okay, so that's our starting point here. Okay, so let's go back. So let's take a look at some of the questions we have on this one. So this first one here, first query is given the tables, basically given the database that we have, a couple things. We want to see, based upon the result here, uh, what would be the results of the execution of this query against this. All right. So the first thing you want to look at, a couple things to look at on this. First is you want to see how many, if it is a single table or if it is multiple tables involved with a join. All right. So if we look at this right here, this is only going to deal with the race table. All right. There's no join involved. All right. So that's the first thing. Second thing is if you take a look at the show, all right, there are two tables, there are two fields which are going to be displayed, and four tables, basically four fields are in the query. Two fields will be displayed, two fields will not. All right. Now the thing to remember is the only thing, if you unclick the show, the only thing that happens with that is just doesn't show it. You will evaluate it. So if we take a look at this here where we use this like statement, so with this, the way you would interpret this is a like one star is give us everything in that field that begins with the number one. All right. So the way I would interpret this is, basically read this table, um, ID, evaluate ID, name, city, zip, um, return the name and the city, because those are clicked. Um, and then for the criteria is anything that is like one star, which means anything that begins with the number one. Okay, in the zip code field. All right, so let's take a look at the table again. Let's take a look at the data that would match this. All right, so we're looking. All right, so we're going to look at the race table here, right? So when we look at the race table, what we see is um, there are one, two, three tables, three records in the database that begin with the zip code begins with the number one. So this is basically going to be what we're going to return. All right, so it's going to be Penn Relays, Cycle Mania, and Circle Cycle will be the three we will return. All right. So it'll be three records and two fields. This is the answer for this. Okay. All right. Now this one's a little bit trickier. All right. So in this case, as we look at this, we look at the database, and what we have here is this is actually a join because as we look at this, we see Okay, the tables, there's actually more than one table involved with this. This is going to be the members table and joined against the race results table. All right. Now we look at the show. We're going to show all 5 fields. So whatever we find, we're going to return. Right. Now this is probably a little bit trickier because if you actually look at the members, if you look at the members table and you look at the race results table, where those things are actually joined at, those are actually joined on the member ID. All right, so there's a member ID. There's a member ID. Let's actually look at this again. There's a member ID in the race results and a member ID in the members table. All right. However, we don't return any of that, so that's valid. You can actually you can have a query where you join 2 tables together, and you don't have to work, and you don't really have to, whatever you're joining them across, you don't need to put those in the return set. All right, so what we're going to look for is, we're going to look for 2 things here. So this is a little, as I said, this one's a little bit trickier. All right, so what we're going to do is we want to find everything in the last name, everything it's in the race results. All right. So what we're going to want to do is we want to first, what we want to do is we want to find anything that's in this table. All right, in the members table whose names are greater than M. All right, so the way you interpret that is anything that begins with N or above. All right, so there are 4. So it's Wilson, Thomas, Schooler, and Teague. All right, so it's going to be, so those will be number 2, record number 2, record number 3, record number 8, and record number 18. All right, so those are the 4 we're going to match. Okay, and what we're going to do is we're going to match them in, the race results table. All right, so if we look at the race, once again we look at the race results table. Okay, we said it's going to be number 2, so we'll have is 1. As we look at the table here, what we'll have is, how many folks are in this. So what we're looking for is either it's going to be somebody with a member number of 2 or 3 or 8 or 18. Okay, and whose division is not equal to senior. All right, that's what that, if you look at this, this is what that not equal senior. All right, so this is how we would interpret this. Okay. So if we look at this, okay, so I've got for 2, for member 2, here's one entry with adults, so that's good. All right. Here's a second entry as an adult, that's 2. And that's it for that. So let's look for all number 3s. Here's 1. That's number 3. That's 3 entries we've identified. Here's another one here. That's also an adult. So that is that's 4 so far. All right. So let's look at 8, which is Schooler. So 8. Here's 1. So matches. That's going to be number 5. Here's another one, 8. Also adult. So it's number 6. Now the thing is, we have another 8 here, but it's actually a senior. All right, so that won't count. Also another 8, also a senior. All right, and there are no 18s in this. Therefore, the result we would get is going to be 6 records. And then once again, five columns, since there's 5 columns and they're all checked. That one's a little trickier. All right, so let's look at this one here. This is we're going to match the race result or race against the race results. All right, we're going to return 1, 2, 3, 4 columns. All right, when we return the city. All right, but what we're looking for in criteria, it has to be the place. You have to be greater than 4, and women and race results of female. All right, so all females who finish greater than 4 in the race results table. Okay, so if we look at our race results table, basically we go through anything that is a female. So I have 1, 2, so it's greater than, so it's actually greater, so it's above 4. All right, which would be 5, 6, 7. All right, so you have to always kind of keep in mind where you are at in terms of like the are you going ascending or descending? So in this case, it would be anything that's greater than 4, which would be 7, 8, 9. Right. So 2 and 3 don't count. You can identify everything as female. One way to take it would be to identify everything that's female. All right. And then lop off anything that does not meet the second criteria. One thing to point out here, 4 is not greater than 4. All right, so 4, when you say something greater than 4 or greater than a number, it does not include that number. You can include it if you say a greater than or equal to. So that is that's valid. But if you say greater than 4, what that means is it's 5, 6, 7. All right, so take a look at her test right here. Female greater than 4. There's 1. There's 2. There's 3. There's 4. And that is it. So our results on that query would be 4. So the answer is 4 on this one. Anything is greater than 4 and female. So that's how you read that as an and. This one's a little trickier because this is does a little bit of a variant. This does what we call an or. Okay, so we read this. This is a join between the members table and the race results table. All right. And what we're looking for is, return first name, last name, place, and division. All right. Where either the runner is, or the racer finished in first place. So this is going to be going against we'll find that against the race results. All right. So we'll find somebody who's either finished in first place or is a senior. All right. So if things are on different lines, all right, you read this is going to be, you either do the criteria of anything that's on the same line is treated as an and. All right, so this would be, it's either a senior, somebody is a senior in division, or finished in first. All right. So what you've got here, let's look at our table here. Let's go back to our table. So it's going to be anybody who finished first, which is going to be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 5 of those, or as a senior. Now this would not count because actually this was already been selected. So this is going to be, we pick for either one. So that'd be 5. I'll pick that one. But this one would be, this would be 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. So the result set on that one would be 11 records returned on that query. Alrighty. And I'll do one more. All right, so this is, so this one goes against a singleton. So in this case, we're only going to look at the race results table. All right, and what we're going to do is we're going to do a group by and a count. All right, so what we're doing is we're consolidating. What we're looking for is we're going to figure out how many races there are, how many unique race IDs in there. That's what the group by is going to give us. So what we've actually got, if we look at this, unique race IDs, what we have is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So there's 5 different races that we have different results for different members. 2, 3, 4, and 5. Okay, so those are 5. All right, let's go back to our query. Let's look at it again. All right, and then what we're going to do within each one of these, we're going to count how many entries there are. All right, so how many races? We'll get a count of how many folks ran in those races. All right, and then we're going to sort it descending. All right, so the way we would interpret this, let's go back to our table here. If we go back to our table here, what we'll see is race 1 had 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Second race had 1, 2, 3, 4. 5K3 has 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. This one had 1, 2, 3. And the final grouping we had 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay, so the one with the greatest number of results in the table, all right, is the 3K5, which is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 entries in it. So if we go back and look at our query again, what we're going to do is we're going to sort this descending. All right, so we're going to count this. We're going to get the results, which means that when we do a descending, we have the highest number goes first, and then we go down from there. All right. So the answers were going to be there are going to be 5 unique races we have out there. The one with the highest number of results in it, or members maybe within that, is going to be the third race, the 3K5 race. Okay, so there's, as I said, there's a fair amount of, the trick with these things is just kind of looking at them and kind of working them through methodically, making sure you understand, looking at the query, seeing, okay, is there a join? Is there, everything is in a single table? Is everything in a single table, or is it more than one table? Whether the results will show or not show. Okay, so a couple things, and then kind of working through the, what are the different criterias, whether the criterias are and criterias, something should be this and this and this, or is it a, this or this. One other thing to remember is if you use an, if looking at our back here, our and our or, in order for it to match, if you're using ands, everything has to match. So if I say it's going to be, everything on this line has to match up in order for it to be selected. And the same way is going to be this one or the next one or the next one. You can have multiples of these. But any kind of criteria you would have, in dealing with an and, everything has on the same line has to match in order for it to be selected. All right. So let's take a quick look at some of the other. I pulled together a couple of other queries from before on the dealing with Sam's Club. Let's look at our Sam's Club query again. All right. So here's just another couple of examples as we look at this. So in this case, it'll be, these are ands here, okay? So what we'll say is we're going to say like, so this is going to be the pattern match, right? CH star and BE star. All right, so in this case, the primary description has to begin with the letter CH. Everything, you match everything against that, and everything has to have a BE in the brand name for starters. Okay, on a single table, secondary description would not or is not going to be returned also. All right, so that's the other thing you want to look at your shows. And here's the results. Okay, CHBE. Here's another one also, single table. All right, look at all of our entries. We're going to return all of the fields. All right, we're going to look for everybody has a member code of Y. Okay, the tender amount is less than $15, which means $14.99 and below, and the transaction date is on the 5th of January 2000. So this is all of the transactions that meet that day. All right. 5. The member code. Then the store visits. Excuse me, the tender amount, which also include negative numbers as well. So long as it's below, which means it's below $15, $14.99. Example 3 here. Number code equal, this actually should be V in the description here. My mistake. So member code equal V. We're not going to return the sales tax amount, single table. Not going to show the sales tax amount and the total visit amount. But we're looking for everything that's got a code of V. Also, $14.99. So basically, it's the same as the other one, except we're not going to return the tender type, the sales tax amount, and the visit amount. we're not going to show those. So it's the same one, basically with a different, a reduced return display. Okay, so this one's gets started a little bit. This is also a single table. When all visits for member number 191, 139.84 don't display the tender type, sales tax, or total visit amount, then we want to sort by the transaction date in descending order. So when we say something in descending order, what that means is we're going to take the um, most recent date to the earliest date. Okay. So in this case, we've got within the database we have 3 records. All right. One was on 129. The other 2 were on 1/5. Okay. One was a purchase of 35.60. One appears to be a return on that day. Okay. Okay. So hopefully they kind of look at these things and you get a little bit of a sense. I mean, the trick with analyzing queries, it's a matter of practice. It's one of these things that if you practice it and kind of look at it, eventually you start getting a grasp of kind of what it is. So just kind of look at these things, kind of work through, kind of check okay, is it a join? Is it a standalone table? Is it ascending? Is it descending? Are we going to display or not display? Okay.